November is right around the corner. We've only got 2 months left in the nightmare that is 2020. That means it's time to stop and rank all 8 October new releases that I saw, from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Share your ranking of the October new releases that you saw. This isn't a ranking of every October new release because I don't know all the movies that did come out, but I saw 8 new releases. Those are the ones that I've seen. Let me know what other movies came out that maybe I should try and check out that were pretty good that I happened to miss. One more thing before we get started. Over on Patreon, I've actually shared some extended thoughts on 3 of these movies: The Witches, Borat 2, or Borat the subsequent movie, as well as The Trial of the Chicago 7. Over on my Patreon page, I actually did full kind of extended reviews on those movies. So if you want to see that, you can check that out at the link down below in the description to see if you would like to join in and get all the exclusives over on Patreon. And let's get started. In last place is The Witches. As a point of reference, I didn't read the Roald Dahl book growing up. I'd actually never seen the 1990 version of The Witches, even though I am the perfect age to have seen that movie growing up. So I went into this one really with a pretty clean slate, just knowing that my wife was very interested in watching it with my kids and wanted to read the book The Witches to my kids, tied to watching this film. And I obviously did not like it very much. I wouldn't have checked it out independent of having this YouTube channel. The trailer didn't really interest me. There's a reason I never watched the 1990 version. And so this one, it was just a new version of something that had little interest to me. And then as I was watching it, there wasn't much that really won me over. The movie as a whole, I just thought was unbalanced and had a totally wrong mix of dark elements about parents dying and cancer and witches trying to kill kids and turn them into animals for the rest of their life, and like corny, very lowbrow humor. The mix just didn't work for me. I don't really know what it was going for, and so none of it appealed to me. Number 7, The Doorman. In The Doorman, Ruby Rose plays a former Marine who is now working as a doorman with an awesome haircut, who has to go full diehard when mercenaries go into the building trying to get an old fortune, and she must battle all of them. No way! If you're in the mood to just watch implausible action and goofy set pieces following a template that you've seen literally 50 times before, 100 times before, that's what you get with this movie. We've seen this exact movie done many times before and done better. And I don't know why they kind of keep trying to make Ruby Rose into this awesome action hero, but it just seems like a very strange thing to do.
Not a great plan.
It's a little sad to see Jean Reno, the professional, in a movie like this. So, yeah, it's a direct-to-video action die-hard ripoff starring Ruby Rose. That's what it is, and it's exactly as good as you would think that would be. Next up, Hubie Halloween, the latest Happy Madison comedy. And of the Happy Madison comedies of the Netflix era, I mean, this one isn't horrible. It's certainly far from the worst of the batch, and my kids enjoyed it, so I've actually seen this movie 3 times now, and I didn't hate that, but it is an Adam Sandler comedy recycling kind of the same bag of tricks that he's been doing for literally over 20 years. It's a man-child with a funny voice and a bunch of slapstick comedy and all of his friends showing up for little cameos here and there. It's the exact same thing. Even like he likes to get to the end of the movie and kind of have this sweet section where everyone's as a group talking. It's the same stuff that we've seen in Happy Madison movies for a very long time, just not quite as good. It's not as bad as most of the recent stuff. It's mostly harmless, but it's very, very familiar. In 5th place is Tremors Shrieker Island. Now, I actually skipped Tremors 5 and 6. This is Tremors 7. So I wasn't sure if that would leave me kind of clueless going to the movie. No, I was totally fine. I could follow the plot without any issues. Grabloids, the creatures from the Tremors franchise, are put on this island. Bert must save the day. This time he's teaming up with Napoleon Dynamite. I gotta say, I had fun with this movie. It's a direct-to-video B movie. It is not trying to be high cinema. It's not trying to be prestige, but it knows it's a low-budget creature feature, and it does the best it can with its budget. First off, it's shot on a real island, not on a green screen, so it actually looks really pretty where they're at on these islands. There's plenty of creature action. You get Napoleon Dynamite battling creatures with a chainsaw, flamethrower action, miniguns, explosions. You get all that stuff that you want from a movie like this. And, you know, like I said, that's not great cinema. There's obvious places where they're cutting corners. Like one of the creatures dies underground, and so there's just a big pile of dirt, and then they like throw paint out the side of it. Be like, it blew up underground. But did it deliver the B-movie creature feature schlock that I wanted when I pushed play on Tremors Shrieker Island? Yes, it did. And it made me actually want to go rewatch all the Tremors movies. Then we have Honest Thief, the latest Liam Neeson thriller. This one where he's a bank robber that wants to turn himself in for love. And, you know, it's exactly what you think it's going to be from the trailer. In fact, the trailer gives away almost the whole movie. The trailer kind of really does spoil basically all the twists and turns inside of the film. But it's a good enough Liam Neeson thriller. And actually what I enjoyed about this one is his character's a lot more likable than normal. A lot of times his characters are like drunks, deadbeats, disgraced cops, people that are suicidal. And in this one, his character is just actually an honest, good guy that makes some bad choices, and he's trying to make it right because he falls in love with a girl that's actually really sweet and kind. And so it kind of made the movie a little bit lighter, easier to watch than some of his movies because they're just so harsh at times. So nothing new, but if you're in the mood for a Liam Neeson thriller, this one will deliver what you want. Real quick, before I give you my top 3, remember to share your ranking of the October new releases that you saw down below in the comments section. Also, remember over on my Patreon page, I do have extended reviews of 3 of the movies in here: Borat 2, The Witches, and The Trial of the Chicago 7, all over on my Patreon page. You can check that out at the link down below in the description to see if that's right for you. In third place is Borat, the subsequent film. Now, as a point of reference, I hadn't seen the first Borat film. I hadn't seen Bruno. I hadn't really seen any of these Sacha Baron Cohen comedies going into Borat, the subsequent film. And I'll say this, as soon as I finished the second movie, I went back and rewatched the first movie. That should tell you a good enough idea of what I felt about the film. So I don't know if it's safe to say this is the funniest movie of the year thus far, but that really wouldn't be saying a lot because it is the year 2020. But I laughed a lot watching this movie. The hijinks are so over the top, so ridiculous that it's tough not to laugh at so much of what happened in this film. Now, I think the one thing that holds this one back, I didn't fully kind of capture what it was until I watched the first film. Because nobody knew who Borat was, he goes on this road trip across the United States throughout this movie, and he really meets up with a bunch of different people in different places, and you feel like you're seeing an actual thing unfold of how they're responding to this character, and it felt like it unearthed a lot more. The problem with Borat 2, as he even states in the movie, is that everybody knew who Borat was, and therefore he couldn't actually do what he wanted to do. He had to find other characters and bring this girl into it. And so because I think they had more of a plot that they were trying to do involving this girl and gifting him to a politician, it restricted what they could do. A lot more of it felt much more scripted and set up. And so it was like a solid, very funny movie, but not nearly as cohesive as the first one felt. Our runner-up is The Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, this is an Aaron Sorkin written and directed film about real-life events from the 1960s that, because of the way the universe played out, were incredibly timely. It deals with social unrest, protest, and police brutality, and people being put on trial for that. A very captivating story because it has this great three things converge really nicely of Aaron Sorkin's gift is just having these very lively characters and dialogue. The movie has fantastic actors playing them and they disappear into the characters, even Sacha Baron Cohen making another appearance on this list. And then the events themselves were stranger than fiction, so outrageous that when you put together great writer, great cast, and interesting events, inherently, it's just a very captivating story. The thing that kind of held this one back for me is that Aaron Sorkin is the movie's biggest asset and liability at the same time, that he has such a distinct voice that it turns into this scenario that every character is too eloquent. They say things that are too articulate, that just represent their worldview in this perfect Sorkinized version of what they said. And because he's doing all these Sorkinizing theatrics, it takes a little bit of the humanity out of it, because you always know that you're watching these events filtered deeply through the worldview of Aaron Sorkin. But coming in at number 1 is Love and Monsters. This movie absolutely was not on my radar at all, and I absolutely loved this movie. More impressive, though, is that my wife loved this movie. I didn't even think she would like it necessarily. We got to the end of it, and she said, that might be in my top 20 favorite movies of all time.
Excellent!
And what makes this movie so powerful is that it has all the monster action you want. It has all kind of the goofy laughs. It has a very lighthearted tone to it. But it's also a very introspective, thoughtful film. It's very melancholy at times, but it's always hopeful. And it keeps finding ways to subvert your expectations in the right way. There's all these scenarios that play out where you think you know where it's going. Like, it's always a little bit smarter and more potent and powerful. And maybe the best example of this, there is this sequence in the middle of it where a robot is there and you think it's just a gag that they're going to play out real quick. And it turns into one of the most emotional scenes in a movie this entire year, while being really funny because it is this robot gag. Parts of it are really beautiful. And it has this element of even finding the beauty in the worst of situations. I mean, it's just an incredibly written and directed sequence. So this is a movie that was not on my radar. And I absolutely loved what it delivered. And it over-delivered on basically every single front. There's a reason it comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video and want more content like it, I got more movie reviews right over there with my full thoughts on several of these movies that we talked about in this video, in particular Love and Monsters. I want you to check that one out. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.